Good evening, councillors, staff, the press, and online viewers. We begin tonight's meeting with an acknowledgement that the land on which we are gathered is in the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, specifically Mississauga. We would also like to acknowledge the North Channel Métis Council. We say miigwech to thank Indigenous peoples for taking care of this land from time immemorial. We are called to treat this sacred land, its plants, animals, stories, and its people with honor and respect. Tomorrow is World Teachers' Day. On behalf of Council, we are reaching out to all teachers. A heartfelt thank you for providing guidance and education to our students. Your time, energy, and commitment does not go unnoticed. We appreciate you and all that you do. Prior to beginning tonight's agenda, I would ask each councillor who is present via this video conferencing to answer the roll call when I call your name. Deputy Mayor Summers.
Present.
Councillor Betty Ann Dunbar.
Present.
Councillor Jim Dunbar.
Present.
Councillor H.P. Roy.
Present.
Councillor Jennifer Postorero.
Present.
And Councillor Stephen Wells sends his regrets. There certainly is a feeling of fall in the air as our trees are turning brilliant shades of red, orange, and yellow. This weekend, some of you will be reuniting with your loved ones, either at home or at theirs. Please follow the Algoma public health guidelines by ensuring that everyone is vaccinated and wear a mask where required. We want you to continue to be both healthy and safe. October 16th is Fall Festival on Woodward Avenue. Our witches will be dancing up a storm. The Well will also be hosting its grand opening, and the street will be closed to allow vendors to sell their goodies. And for more information, please go to our website to see what's going on and sign up for our weekly news updates by contacting via email info@blindriver.ca. And I also want to say a warm acknowledgement to Jennifer Postorero. Councillor Postorero is one of our teachers. So Jennifer, our hats are off to you and your colleagues tomorrow at World Teachers' Day. So thank you. Now, without further ado, turning to tonight's agenda, I have a motion from Deputy Mayor Summers, seconded by Councillor Jay Dunbar. Be it resolved that Council approve the agenda, the closed meeting agenda as presented. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. And are there any declarations of conflict of interest on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on. I have a motion from Councillor Roy, seconded by Councillor Postorero. Be it resolved that Council adopt the minutes of the regular Council meeting of September 20th, 2021 as presented. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. And is there any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we have no public presentations tonight, so I'll draw your attention to the introduction and consideration of administrative reports. 9.1, administration has given us a report on 2021 project tracking. Are there any questions for administration on this report? Seeing a lot of notes. Okay, so moving on to 9.2, and this is with respect to Huron Pines Golf Course Board request. I have a motion from Councillor J. Dunbar, seconded by Councillor B. Dunbar. Be it resolved that Council authorize the Huron Pines Golf Course and Country Club pre-budget approval to purchase an additional 12 golf carts from within the 2022 budget, and that upon delivery of the units, all details will be provided to the CAO in order to add the carts to the Town of Blind River's asset management plan. Questions, discussion? Councillor Roy?
Just a quick one. I don't know, maybe I missed. I was looking for the price of the original 12 golf carts, so like idea what the next 12 are going to be worth.
And I'll turn it over to Ms.
For information.
Scott. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor. The original cost for the golf carts was around $92,000. That was with the taxes for the 12. We're unsure though at this time, unless either one of the board members has further to add to this, but I don't recall them advising if it was going to be the same price. It would depend on the future pricing. So it would be in the neighborhood of the 92,000. You can expect it to be at least that much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Are there any other questions on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And we have nothing under service delivery status. So we're moving to a presentation of committee reports from the Director of Facilities and Community Services grant submissions. I have two motions. The first one is moved by Councillor Posturero, seconded by Councillor Roy. Be it resolved that Council supports the submission of grant applications where there is a direct link to, at minimum, one of the following documents: the Tulloch Facility Report, the Strategic Plan, Council Vision, and Annual Approved Budget, and that Council be updated on submissions in addition to the decision of all submissions as recommended by the Community Services Committee. Discussion? Councillor Jay Dunbar, followed by Councillor Roy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It might be the way I'm reading this, and I'm not. It's not my intentions to offend anyone, but I'm just wondering here. It's not the wording on this recommendation that I'm reading here. It might be the lack of wording in this recommendation, and this brings me to believe I have some reservations and comments and a few questions as to the intent of this recommendation. Starting with the first line of this recommendation, that Council supports the submission of grant applications. You know, I honestly can't see Council not supporting grant applications at any time, unless there are budget implications or Council was just not in favor of a particular submission. And that would require Council pre-approval on the submission for the grant, which isn't in this recommendation anywhere. I don't think, or I don't believe that the flow or the process would be disrupted that much, you know, having to seek Council approval before submission of the grant. And, you know, if there was a quick timeline for submission of this grant, a specific grant, you know, I'm sure we could have a special meeting in time, you know, to deal with it, with the submission that may be on the table. Like, as an example, as it says here, a hypothetical example is that if there was a submission for a $300,000 grant, let's say, let's use the Vision Board for a pad, you know, a splash pad. Well, and we had to put up money pertaining to this. The way this here sees this, I see that Council is being informed after the fact. Because it's not worded in here that we're given approval for this here, say this submission. So as this here reads right now, I can't support it, and I'm hoping maybe some light might be shed on this. But I believe if it's the intent to go ahead and submit applications for grants without informing Council or looking for Council approvals, I'm not on board with this.
Thank you. And Ms. Bittner, would you like to, Ms. Scott, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. With regard to this motion, I believe it was brought forward through the Community Services Committee. at your last meeting, and you discussed it at that time. This is with regard to the fact that the grants are very short turnarounds, and a lot of times we have to be prepared long before the grant even comes up lately with these new funding opportunities. Council provides us with a budget, and for instance, the information center, you requested that we get the information center done, you allotted money towards that. A grant came up, so rather than spending all of the money, we can apply for that grant and offset those pressures. So what we're doing is we're taking the pressure off of the tax money, the tax base, for projects that we know need to be completed. We know that we need to complete a lot of facility upgrades. Council is aware, council adopted the report from TELUC. That then gives staff their marching orders to go out and find as much funding as we can to accomplish those those projects that are within the budget that council has already approved. When we start bringing things back time after time, it becomes very operational, and that's not the role of council. Council has set the level of what your expectations from staff are, what the projects are that you want done, and we bring them forward knowing that what we have set aside in, for instance, our facility reserve or in the future projects reserve. At no time would staff go forward and build a water park that was not something that council had already approved. So there's nothing written in any of our plans that says a water park. Therefore, we would not be applying for that. If that was something new, a new service that would be coming to the table, absolutely, we'd be bringing it to council because there's future costs that you have to look at. What we're talking about is we know, for example, the boardwalk was identified as an area that we needed to upgrade. So when funding came available for that, we could apply for that. We're trying to offset the budget pressures that we have and that we've already had approval from council to move forward with. Coming back to the table over and over and over for the same project is not a useful resource of staff time. It does create a lot more work to do that. So if we're applying for a grant that's already has something that's in the budget, you're already going to spend the money, you've already committed to that, why would we not look for a grant to offset it? That's the rationale behind this.
Madam Mayor, if I may reiterate on that.
I was just going to say, Councillor Dunbar, would you like to respond to that? And then it will be Councillor Roy and Deputy Mayor Summers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the explanation, Ms. Scott. But I guess I'll finish up with my question, though, is that obviously, if it's pre-budgeted, you know, I have no qualms about it. But it's when something that we're not aware of. So my question here is, in this recommendation, the way this recommendation reads, are you seeking, and will you be seeking grants, you know, and submitting grants without council being informed or approvals?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, if it's already a project that has been identified by council, then yes, we wouldn't come back to council and say, can we apply for money to offset the budget pressure? That doesn't, there's no need to do that. We already know, we already have approval. Once you've set the budget, you've given us our marching orders. Once you've set the budget, there is no coming back, oh, well, we changed our mind over here. We can't, you've set the budget. As soon as the budget is set, that is our direction from council to move forward on those projects. Any projects that are within the budget that we can offset those pressures by finding grants and funding, then we would do so. If a funding application came up, which would be identified in the policy that I believe is the second resolution, that came up for something that council had not directed staff to work on in that current year, and would be a totally new service that we'd be adding to our service levels, we would bring that back to council. We cannot make those arbitrary decisions. There's a scope within the Municipal Act that sets out clearly what staff is permitted to do through the direction of council. So we wouldn't be overstepping on that. We still have to go back to the municipal act, which clearly defines council's role and staff's role. So we wouldn't be overstepping there. We would be sticking within the parameters. And that can be clearly set out in the policy if that would make you feel more confident. But there has not been any funding that's been applied for without it already being in the budget as a budget pressure.
I'd like to see that in the policy then.
Thank you, Councillor Dunbar. On to Councillor Roy. And your mute's on.
I'm sorry, I thought I clicked it off. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm kind of in the same boat as Jim. I didn't like the wording. I know that one of the last grants we had was the basketball court, the baseball field, and of course the tennis courts. Basketball court and the baseball field, I don't think any of us knew about, and that was something that was a bone of contention, especially with Councillor Dunbar. And we did have to wait on that one. I didn't, and it was pretty tight to have to get the grant through, to get it sent out, because I know it's a lot of work to do that report. But the wording almost looks like cutting out the middleman, and I don't like that either. We can always have a special meeting. We're not being operational, wanting to be in the know of things that are going on. And even though we've brought it up in the past, we put it in the budget or in our wish list, we should still know what's going on and not be brought up. It says council will be updated on the decision of all submissions, but it'd be nice to know what's going on when it's going on. So when people ask us on the street, we're not ignorant of what's going on in our own council. So I'm with Jim. I'd like to see it in some type of wording that would give us the insight and maybe just a peace of mind, saying that it's coming to us. We're going to know what's going on, and then it's going to go ahead through the proper channels and send out for submission, and then hopefully get the grant through and get things done in this town. So a little foggy on this on the wording, but I mean, I really do support their team. I think that our people in the office, our staff are doing very, very good work, and I know we can trust them. I just like to know ahead of time so that, you know, we're in the know, because we are council, we're voted in by the people. So that's what I had to say.
Thank you, Councillor Roy. Deputy Mayor Summers.
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. My comment was, I think it's the wording where it says there is a direct link to at minimum one of the following documents. So it leads you to believe that one of the documents, if it's in our council vision, then we can just go ahead and then staff would say, oh, well, we can go ahead and we can apply for this grant. I think that's where the issue is coming from, because above all, as long as it's in the budget, then yes, I don't have a problem with it. But I would like it to be clear that it would have to be in the annual approved budget for sure, and then possibly fit into one of the other things. I'm not sure, but I think that's where the issue is, that just the wording of it makes it sound like as long as it fits into one of these areas. And I know you did explain that, Ms. Scott, but just maybe we could just have a little bit better clarification in the actual resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Summers. Councillor Pastorero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know the intent of this resolution is to expedite and be more efficient in our grant proposals. But as we're all saying, I believe it's just semantics that are throwing us off on this proposal. I think it could, like Councillor Deputy Mayor Summers said, that only having one link. So in essence, a splash pad was on a vision board. So therefore it could move ahead. So that I think it could simply be resolved by where the comma says and approved budget by amending that to say that as long as it has a direct link to a minimum one of the following documents, the Tulloch facility report, the strategic plan, council vision, and it must also have pre-existing budget line for the item. So I think semantics, we just need to be very explicit that it must link to the budget. I think the intent was there, it's just missing a few words. So if
Just
after,
write-
if
I'm
after the
just
end,
yeah, I'm just writing that down. I just wondered if council would like to also change the word, as opposed to support, use the word endorses. No, yay, nay. The one thing I do want to point out in this resolution is that it is something that is going to the Community Services Committee, because it's saying as recommended by the Community Services Committee. So it is going there for discussion purposes prior to coming to council. And as we all know, the Community Services Committee is made up of councillors. So a lot of discussions, I would imagine, would take place at that level. And then anything that is coming forward to council has already been vetted through. Is council okay with that? Deputy Mayor Summers.
I'm not sure that I take the same the same thing out of that line that you did. Miss Scott did have her hand up as well, so I'm just wondering if she wants to say something about this resolution.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. This resolution came from the committee already. The committee's already discussed this at a meeting. So
But I think at that time, I think we did have a little bit of issue with the wording as well, but maybe we didn't quite.
nothing was changed
Okay,
at that
yeah,
time. We
yeah.
could have changed. Well, we still
Yeah.
can change it. But
Okay.
that's the perfect place to change it rather than bringing it forward. And
Mhm.
otherwise, what's the point of the committee meetings?
Yeah, because I believe it's saying that, as you said, because we already discussed it, so as recommended by Community Services Committee, like we did look at this, but
Yes.
I think just on a second look at it, we just felt that there was a little bit of ambiguity in the wording of it, so thank you.
And I just also wanted to note that the Venturi Baseball Park was an approved budgeted project. So just to be clear, that was, and it's still on the project list that we just had prior to in 9.1.
Thank you. Councillor Pastorero.
thank you. Yeah, the intent, and we had already discussed this at length, so we added that we would get to know what the submissions were as well as the decisions. So the intent is there. I think it's just the semantics. So I don't know what it was changed to. So if you could read back the motion so we know what it was amended to.
Sure. Be it resolved that council supports the submission of grant applications where there is a direct link to, at minimum, one of the following documents: the Tulloch facility report, the strategic plan, council vision, and must also have been contained in the annual approved budget, and that council be updated on submissions in addition to the decision of all submissions as recommended by the Community Services Committee. Everybody okay with that? Nodding heads? Okay. Great. So here's the moment. All in favor? And that is carried. Good discussion. And the second part of the submission is moved by Deputy Mayor Summers, seconded by Councillor Roy. Be it resolved that council direct the CAO clerk to develop a policy for grant submissions regarding process, flow, as well as regularly update documents that will affect staff direction in seeking funding as recommended by the Community Services Committee. Discussion? All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. Moving on, the corporate services meeting that was held on September 27th. I had brought forward a email on the use of drones as there had been a complaint about drone use. So we have a motion going forward, moved by Councillor B. Dunbar, seconded by Councillor J. Dunbar. Be it resolved that Council authorize the CAO clerk to investigate municipal policies or bylaws on drone use, and that the CAO clerk report back with recommendations as recommended by the Corporate Services Committee. Discussion? All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. And from our Budget Committee meeting on September 28th, this is from the Director of Facilities and Community Services, read the 2020-2021 CIP progress. And I have a motion from Councillor Roy, seconded by Councillor J. Dunbar. Whereas the town of Blind River supports investment in local business owners and operators within the town of Blind River, therefore be it resolved that council authorize continuation of the community improvement plan in 2023 and that $30,000 be budgeted in the 2022 for the community improvement plan, and that the community improvement plan be amended to a 5-year plan extending until 2027 with the commitment of $30,000 annually for the next 5 years, as recommended by the Community Improvement Committee and the Budget Committee. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. I didn't ask for discussions because I know that council is the Budget Committee and we had agreed on this at that time. So in case you're wondering why wasn't I asking? So that was why. And we had no unfinished business, but we have some correspondence which is requiring our action. We received a letter from the Nogdawin on annual alternative care appreciation event. I have a motion from Councillor Pastorero and seconded by Councillor Dunbar, and I would draw council's attention because we do need to have an amount put in here before I read the motion. So what is the feeling of council giving money to the appreciation event and awards for 2021? Anyone have any feeling? Councillor Pastorero, followed by Deputy Mayor Summers.
What would be that we would normally don't?
It could be $100 or $200, whatever is the wish of council. Go ahead, Councillor Pastorero.
I was just gonna say, maybe in honor of the first discovery of children, we can make it $215.
250?
215.
215? Oh, okay, sorry. Okay. Deputy Mayor Summers?
I was just going to bring up an amount, but that's fine too. What is in our budget? What have we got left in our budget, Ms. Scott?
You have roughly $2,300 left in your budget.
Okay, thank you.
And Councillor J. Dunbar?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to ask Ms. Scott, have we contributed to this year organization prior to this?
Through you, Madam Mayor, not to my knowledge, no.
Is there any other comments from council? Are council comfortable with $215? Not seeing any no's, so we'll put that amount in and I'll read the motion. Moved by Councillor Pastorero, seconded by Councillor B. Dunbar. Be it resolved that council authorize a donation in the amount of $215 to the, I can never say this, Nogdawin Annual Alternative Care Appreciation Fund Event and Awards 2021. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. We have correspondent for information purposes. Did anyone of the council have questions on the Algoma Public Health Board meeting package? Seeing none, September 23rd, we had a meeting of Algoma District Services Administration Board. Are there any questions on that package? Okay, and I received no notices of motion. Oh, sorry, Councillor Jay Dunbar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I noticed in there somewhere in the report that HADSAB was going to be receiving a greater amount of money of excess of $1,090,000 for 2022 year, or the end of this year
2022.
All right.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, moving on, there were no notices of motion, so we're on to the introduction and consideration of bylaws. I have a motion from Councillor Jay Dunbar, seconded by Deputy Mayor Summers. Be it resolved that Council authorize the Mayor and CAO Clerk to sign bylaw 21-50, being a bylaw of the Corporation of the Town of Blind River to prohibit or regulate public nuisances within the Town of Blind River, was passed in open council this 4th day of October 2021. Discussion? Councillor Jay Dunbar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question for Ms. Scott. Is this a revision or is this a brand new bylaw? Have we not, or maybe you've changed some from one bylaw to this bylaw, but I don't recall seeing this bylaw on the books before, unless it was under something beside nuisance.
Through you, Madam Mayor, this is a new bylaw. This is capturing some of the current bylaws we have and adding in addition to encompass multiple issues that we are facing. So this is a new bylaw, but there are some additions from current bylaws.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And I have a motion from Councillor Roy, seconded by Councillor B. Dunbar. Be it resolved that Council accepts the bid of $71,198.79 plus HST from JI Enterprises for the creation of an accessible trail loop development expansion to the Young Fox / El Dorado Trail in partnership with Mississauga First Nation. Discussion? Councillor Roy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering, it says accessible, does it mean wheelchair accessible? I mean, are we putting people in wheelchairs through a trail in the bush that has wild animals, including bears and so on? I'm just wondering how safe this is and where this came from. It just seems odd to, and I'm not trying to keep people back. I think that everybody should have accessibility. I'm just a little worried about, I'm concerned more about safety, and what if they're out there alone and they get stuck on this trail? What happens? I mean, even with a mobility scooter, in some areas are not that mobile. I'm just wondering where our fail safes are. So,
And I will turn it over to our Director of Facility and Community Services, Ms. Bittner.
good, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hagman. Thank you, Councillor Roy, for the concerns. I'd like to start out, before I get started on the why behind this, is to make sure that we are very careful with our verbiage, and that as an inclusive community, we are not pigeonholing certain groups, whether they be able-bodied or disabled, with terms like they. Talking about wheelchairs, people who utilize assisted devices, as though folks are not equipped to be able to navigate our beautiful outdoors. This project has been underway with Mississauga First Nation for over 1.5 years. We were successful with our Trails Canada submission, which went to the Blind River Development Corporation, where we had to create a new route for this trail, as the original plan was no longer an option. Both of our funders, including Mississauga First Nation, were okay with us moving the trail to exclusively town-owned properties, so we did not have to be in the safe zone for Cameco. The Lollipop Loop is designed with AODA specs in mind. Now, keeping in mind that the building code hasn't quite caught up to trails and boardwalks as such. That's why you can still see boardwalks without hand railing, depending on the height, similarly at the Marine Park. When we're talking about accessibility, we're talking about the ground matter. So we use the appropriate aggregate. So it is comfortable for folks in any devices, parents pushing strollers, to be able to enjoy our trails. Council was provided our accessibility rating for our parks, our playgrounds, our trails, our facilities, I believe 2 meetings ago, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. And we do have some deficiencies, so we're not inclusive. This trail has been funded from Trans-Canada Trail and OHFC, partnered by the town of Blind River and Mississauga First Nation, to make sure that we're teaching about Indigenous history, European history, letting people know how far they've traveled throughout the trail. So if they'd like to turn around and get stronger and then try and hit another midpoint on their next visit, that's the idea. There's also going to be parking, so it gets folks off the road, and leaving the vehicle is a much more pleasant experience. Signage in English, French, Ojibwe, and we're researching opportunities for Braille. We have been engaging with the Ontario Birding Association, which focuses on accessibility, and we have some wonderful folks from the city of Elliott Lake, population there, that are using Blind River as their point to come and visit because of our strides in accessibility and want to help promote our project. This mechanism, if you will, this valuable piece of infrastructure is going to catapult Blind River forward, like with all of our projects, where our corporate strategic plan highlights Blind River's niche capability to be an accessible tourism leader in Northern Ontario. We know accessible tourism leaders bring in an average, I believe it's 2.5 or 3.2 additional visitors, because more often than not, folks who are disabled tend to bring a friend with them, tend to bring a support with them, tend to bring a family member with them. Blind River, being inclusive, we know it's good for business. We know it's good for people. We know it is good to be welcoming. And especially as we have an aging population, why would we not create systems that ensure everyone can get out and participate? So to answer your question, Councillor Roy, if we're talking about safety, we handle that through signage. We handle it through a variety of languages. We handle it by having a safe pathway and then having all of the emergency mechanisms in place too. So right down to you're at stop number 1 on the trail when you dial 911 and the geolocate involved. You've made it to stop number 2, bench number 2. This is where you're located in the bush. This is also why the trail has been designed that an emergency vehicle can pull into the parking lot. And then it's very smooth for a paramedic, if they had to get in there, to be able to wheel what was needed to be able to quote unquote rescue somebody if they were in distress.
Great, that answers my question. Thank you, Ms. Bittner.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions on this motion? And this is part 1 of 2. Councillor Jay Dunbar.
Thank you. Just to stimulate my memory here, Karen, is this project, it will be finished this year? The Lollipop Trail?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Jay Dunbar. The construction of the trail, yes. We do require until March to finish the translation, working through to make sure we have accurate translation with our partners at Mississauga First Nation does take a lot of time. And John Cada, who is partnered as the EDO from MFN, has been doing his due diligence to make sure that the translations go through more than one person. Because it's great to get the different perspectives to make sure that we're not posting something that isn't accurate. So that completion will be March, but we do hope to have people on the trails this winter with their snowshoes, which was also another concern of the ski club, to have those 2 separate opportunities for folks to be able to utilize.
Okay, are there any other questions on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And the second part of this agenda item, it is moved by Deputy Mayor Summers, seconded by Councillor Roy. Be it resolved that Council authorize the Mayor and CAO Clerk to sign bylaw 21-51, being a bylaw to authorize the municipality to enter into an agreement with JI Enterprises Incorporated for the construction of approximately 1,300 meters of accessible trail, including rest areas and seating. Discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And this ends the first public part of the meeting. Moving into closed, I have a motion from Councillor Pastorero, seconded by Councillor Jay Dunbar. Be it resolved that council go into a closed meeting at 7:40 p.m. in accordance of Section 239 of the Municipal Act in order to discuss matters pertaining to personnel and labor relations. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. And we'll see you on the other side. And thank you to the public. Welcome back, Blind River. I have a motion from Councillor B. Dunbar, seconded by Councillor J. Dunbar. Be it resolved that council resume the open meeting at 8:20 p.m. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. And while we were in closed, council discussed personnel matters. And we also discussed labor relations and employee negotiations. And I have a motion from Councillor J. Pastorero, seconded by Councillor J. Dunbar. Be it resolved that council authorize the mayor and CAO clerk to sign bylaw 21-52, being a bylaw of the Corporation of the Town of Blind River, to adopt the minutes of the meeting of October 4th, 2021, was passed in open council this 4th day of October, 2021. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. And last but not least, I have a motion from Deputy Mayor Summers, seconded by Councillor Roy. Be it resolved that council adjourn at 8:21 p.m. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening, and we will
Night.
see you soon. Bye.